बाजुल कर दी। मेरा बच्चा एकदम अंदर से टूट गया था रे बाप रे बाप। मेरा बच्चा अंदर से बिल्कुल टूट गया था। इतना टॉर्चर हुआ मेरा बच्चा कि टूट गया एकदम अंदर से।
अभी मीडिया का ही दे रहा है क्या?
बस लाश
कहाँ?
मेरा बच्चा अंदर से बिल्कुल टूट गया।
आपके बेटा आपको कुछ बताए थे क्या हुआ था और हो क्या रहा था सर? क्यों ऐसा डिसीजन लिए है?
हमारा बेटा हमको कहता था कि पापा हम जाते हैं कोर्ट में तो हमारे पास हमको जो है सो पूरा जस्टिस नहीं मिलता है। हर आदमी हमको जो है सो कानून व्यवस्था के अंतर्गत कोई काम नहीं होता है और ये नियम से चलने वाला, कानून से चलने वाला आदमी था, लेकिन ये कभी भी जो है सो वहाँ की कानून व्यवस्था को एकदम मानता था कि एकदम खत्म है।
सर क्या बताए थे सर आपके बेटा? इससे पहले आपकी जो बात हुई थी, कब बात हुई थी और क्या हुआ क्या था?
मार्च के महीना में वो गया था। मार्च के महीना के बाद जब आया ना तो कहा कि पापा वहाँ का जो मीडिएशन का जो जज है, चाहे जो भी लोग है, वकील है चाहे जज है, जो भी है, वो वहाँ के कानून व्यवस्था जो लॉ है अपने भारत का, उस लॉ से नहीं चलता है। लोग उस लॉ को मानता ही नहीं है। जो ये बता रहा था कि इस धारा में ये लॉ।
Good morning. Welcome bright and early to this edition of the Breakfast Club. My name is Toya Singh.
Hi there, I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor. Temperatures are dipping, AQI slightly better, our sweaters are on and we are all in the mood to holiday and also in the mood to look at wedding season that everybody is attending. So without any further ado, let's get started. The Big Fat Wedding Evolution, the art of small guest lists and big impacts. Beyond the beaches, what are the unconventional destinations? What are cinematic wows that are turning true love stories into masterpieces? Photo booths and live streaming, forest nuptials and heritage romance. Everything you need to know about trends in weddings this season.
And we're going to be shattering the continuing stigma around men's mental health. We're going to be bringing you a conversation around men's mental health. As the silence we found around this crucial issue remains deafening, we wanted to change that today by bringing on the co-founder of Yuvaa, Nikhil Taneja, for an important conversation about what more needs to be done to have conversations and make our society a more friendly space for this topic.
So talking about stigma, let's look at one surrounding women health. Advocating menstrual equity with impact and also making sanitary napkins not just available but the ones that actually are good for the environment. We speak to She Wings, who takes us through how menstrual hygiene and overall women hygiene is penetrating in rural parts of the country.
Okay, our first story today. We are continuing to look at weddings. Over the last few days, we've focused on different aspects. And obviously, this is because Shadi season is right around the corner. We want you to be prepared and we want you to know what people are looking for increasingly, both as they're planning weddings and as they're attending weddings. In the last few days, we've told you a little bit about the fashion that takes place, photography, themes, destinations being a big thing. But let's take a look very quickly today at some of the numbers behind this. So as we look at trends for the year coming forward, there is one undeniable truth, and that is that Indian weddings are evolving, but at their heart they remain larger than life. So we thought we'd bring you some of the data because it's always really interesting to look at that. One trend that's continuing to captivate couples across the country is the increase in the idea of intimate weddings. So keeping guest lists limited, especially when it comes to destinations wedding. 40 to 50 people, imagine that for big Indian families, keeping it down to 40 to 50 people, especially when it comes to destination weddings, where obviously making that choice of keeping it intimate is also a budget-friendly decision that we're seeing couples make. But you also need to make no mistake that when it comes to the idea of decor and themes, those are ideas that still remain big budget in every sense. People still want to be loud, they still want to be big in their colors. That's the conversation we've seen over the last few days, right? It's interesting. We're also seeing some people say, though, that minimalism is still a theme.
Yeah, even yesterday's episode, we looked at how weddings in India are actually a spectrum. They go from minimalism, have a court marriage and let's just throw a really nice party for a close family and friends, not worry about the chachas and the buas who get worried about us all the time and always have reasons to complain. And on the other hand, weddings that last through months and hop on from destination to destination to really give you an experience of a lifetime. But today, we're looking at some of the themes that are central to the wedding season as well. And one in particular that we want to sort of stress upon is sustainability as a theme. It's a buzzword, yes, but how practical is it to actually incorporate it in your marriage? Like I was telling Toya in the morning as well, how often do you see people actually get married for a cause or, surround themselves around
rarely.
it? Yeah, unlike your Amir Khan's son-in-law and daughter-in-law who will go running to their own wedding and make a statement there. How often does that happen? Yesterday also, two big things that really popped up in our conversation were that people want their weddings to be unique, but they also want it to be viral. So how do you marry the two really to bring out the most of this day that costs money and also will perhaps last a lifetime as well in terms of memories? To talk to us more about that, we've got some fascinating guests today. Siddharth Goyal is with us. He's the co-founder and creative director for Chameleon Productions. Hi, good morning, Siddharth. Thanks so much for joining us. Like I said, we've been talking about weddings far too long. It feels like we could go around and, give some tips to people ourselves. But somebody who does this for a living at your end, first start by telling us, are there specific changes that you're noticing this season versus the last? Is there something that particularly stands out?
Good morning, guys. Thank you so much for this opportunity. We are seeing a lot of differences when it comes down to trends. We've seen a huge growth from minimal weddings to these big fat weddings. We've seen a lot of difference over the years develop in the mindset of the couples that are getting married. I started 10 years ago, and when we did, initially it used to be the families and the chachas and the buas taking decisions for the couple. But they've got to a point where they have their due diligence done, they have their research done, and they're taking informed decisions throughout and taking calls based on what they want and the way they would like it to be. And there's been a huge shift in terms of what they would want, and that's how the entire trend has been moving throughout the years.
I see.
Siddharth, you specialize in a sense in luxury weddings. You do destination weddings. These can be weddings with huge budgets. I just want to understand, over the years, India has typically had a culture where we don't show much. When it comes to wealth, we don't show much, and that's really changing in a big way as we're seeing over the last few years. People are getting comfortable with having what is clearly a lavish wedding. I just want to understand, how are you seeing that affect the decisions on the ground? For example, when it comes to budgets, are people a lot more comfortable with the kind of money they're going to be giving to photography? Do people say, quote your price, we'll be happy with everything? What are you seeing?
We've honestly seen a huge difference in terms of how people are spending. Back in the day, it used to be where photography or anything else, when it come down to a wedding, had a smaller budget in place. People didn't really want to spend so much. But for 40-45% out of the total weddings that we do throughout the year, we've seen a huge major shift in terms of how much people are willing to spend for their wedding. The numbers are just increasing and increasing day by day. And with Ambani having the big fat Indian wedding, they've set a new standard for everyone else, and everyone is just trying to cope up with it, trying to make it as lavish as they can. And the same goes for destination weddings, honestly. But we've seen a shift in terms of destination. Offbeat destinations are really picking up. People are trying to avoid big fat 5-star hotels and pick up boutique properties, pick up castles that are not explored by anyone, go down to hotels which have just opened up in beautiful locations. Like for example, there's this property in Shimla called the Taj Theog, which overlooks the mountains, perfect for a mountain wedding. There's a property in Keemsar right between the desert called the ITC Keemsar, which has a beautiful view throughout. It's situated right in between a desert. So it's a different experience for all the guests from a traditional wedding, but still ends up being a big fat Indian wedding. So we've seen that shift in terms of locations. We've seen couples trying to look for palatial properties, ancestral homes, and conduct the weddings there. And that's the major trend difference that we've seen in terms of decision making when it comes down to a wedding.
Yeah. So Siddharth, like you said, and this is what everybody's been pointing towards, that weddings are becoming more and more about the couple. And if we have to be honest about it, more and more about the bride. They are taking the calls, if they're defining, all decisions are happening around them. Then how come sustainability hasn't really picked up as a theme? Do you think it's actually difficult to sort of put forward a wedding which is based on sustainable values? Is it just not possible? Or do you think we're still sort of not there yet? People are not asking for it.
It's possible, and we've seen a lot of couples also take up decisions for a sustainable wedding. We did a wedding in Goa last year where the bride flew down from Amsterdam, had Indian origins, and she reused her mother's wedding day sari to create a lehenga for herself from scratch. She didn't want any wastage. She had a story behind that lehenga. She had small details on that lehenga from her mother's sari, from her grandmother's chunni, and she completely stitched down a new lehenga for herself because she didn't want to waste any material. She really wanted to follow the concept of reuse. She had sugarcane glasses for the entire wedding, like all drinks were served in sugarcane glasses. She had plantable invites for all the guests that flew down. So she had like a full sustainable wedding. So it's about the choice that the couple makes. There are couples that really want to go hardcore when it comes down to sustainability. They want to follow everything and anything they can to make it as eco-friendly as possible. We've seen guests not using papers and tissues at the wedding. We've seen them not using plastic materials for the decor items. We've seen them use degradable stuff throughout the wedding when it comes, even tissues, glasses, decor items, and anything and everything that's being used at the wedding. So sustainability is actually being followed by a lot of couples, but it's always a choice. We've seen that trend difference where we've also seen the other side where people are wanting to spend on anything and everything, and then we've got the other side, which is the current generation, the millennial generation, which is wanting to save.
A quick follow-up, Siddharth, to this is: do eco-friendly weddings cost more or less compared to the rest?
It costs much less when compared to the other, because products here are locally sourced. They're made by local artisans. They're made by so on the other hand, the weddings that take place on a larger scale have a lot of money involved because the production and all of that is huge. For example, we did a wedding in Bahrain which had a huge setup for its fairas by the beach. But on the other hand, we did the Goa wedding where they sat down on the sand. They had a beautiful little small mandap by the beach, not a lot of elements, not a lot of wood, not a lot of plastic elements. And it just turned out beautiful. It was raw and it just had that perfect aesthetic.
Yeah.
Siddharth, can I ask you, staying with that question, if one were to ask you what the secret is to creating beautiful, intimate moments? Here on the show, we often discuss celebrity weddings. In the last few months, one set of weddings that really left an impact, or one set of pictures rather, was Siddharth and Aditi Rao Hydari, the very intimate visuals they had, seemingly from the library photo shoot that they had. What, if someone were to come to you and ask you, how do you create an intimate moment, something that looks genuine between a couple, what are your few sort of takeaways or tips to them?
The majority of our couples are not actors and models. They're just as human as us. And we get this question quite often where they get worried about how we could capture the best possible moment for them or how we could recreate an intimate moment for them. And I always tell them, these 3 days are never going to come back for you. You will never get married again or get through this process again. So just be you and, just enjoy as much as you can because that's when we get that genuine, intimate output out. And that's when we get the real side of the couple out. They might be very camera conscious. They don't want to do it in front of the camera. But when they're by themselves, madly in love, that's when we get the best output.
Yeah. Siddharth, I often want to ask these questions to people who create such lavish, beautiful moments for a lifetime. Are you married, and how was your wedding like?
I'm not married, but I'm getting married very soon. I'm super excited for it. But yeah, with the number of weddings we've seen across, I have always wanted an intimate wedding with just my people. That's how I envision my wedding to be. And we've honestly seen so many different sort of weddings, from a mandir wedding. We recently did a wedding in Vrindavan for an influencer couple. The bride was from Russia, the groom was a Bengali actor. And it was just them getting married with 25 close friends in the ISKCON temple at Vrindavan. So that's a completely different feeling from having 200, 300, 400 guests fly to a different country and host a mass for everyone. So that's how I would like my wedding to be.
How lovely.
So Siddharth Goyal, who is designing and creating the most dreamy weddings for everybody else, wants an intimate one for himself. Now that tells quite a bit about you, and good luck and congratulations, by the way, on your very big day. And thank you so much for coming in early in the morning to share the details.
Thank you so much.
Isn't that lovely?
So lovely. But also, you're right. It does speak volumes that the people who are making the weddings, we're increasingly seeing are making
I'm sure
the
they
choice
must
of
be like
intimate
so
ones.
proud of the whole process, being like, listen, just give us a break. And who's planning their wedding? Like, how does that happen?
This show is just convincing me to go more and more towards an intimate wedding. Really, that seems to be the thing that's emerging again and again. But yeah, let's move on now.
On that note, let's take a look at what's happening in India and across the world in our news wraps. All right, the pictures that have been taking the internet by storm. These are pictures of the Kapoor family in the national capital meeting with the Prime Minister Modi on Tuesday, December 10th, to celebrate Raj Kapoor's cinematic legacy on the occasion of his centenary. Some special moments of this meeting have been released by PMO, that's the Prime Minister's office. And in the video, the Prime Minister can be seen talking to the Kapoor family about Raj Kapoor and his immense contribution to Indian cinema. The whole Kapoor family and clan was there in a way, and they all shared their thoughts on it.
And big news for India's food processing sector that attracted $368 million in FDI, foreign direct investment, during the first half of the fiscal year of 2025. Major investments came from Ireland, Singapore, Mauritius, the US, Australia and Mexico. And this actually follows $608 million in FDI during the entire previous fiscal year. So that's taking a larger example there. Government schemes like the PM-KSY, the PLI SFBI and the PM-FME are boosting the sector's growth.
According to the data collated by PrimeInfoBase.com, foreign investors turned net buyers in the second half of November, investing 809 crore rupees after pulling out about 22,400 crore during the first half. They favoured financial services and IT stocks, while oil and gas and auto stocks saw a maximum net outflow.
And the World Gold Council has said that gold buying by central banks surged 60 tons in October, mainly led by the RBI, which added 27 tons of the precious metal to its reserves. India added 27 tons, as we just said, bringing its total gold purchases to 77 from Jan to October, according to the WGC data that is available from the IMF. The WGC says that this buying by the RBI represents a 5-fold increase as compared to the very same period last year.
Parliament was told that the government has recovered a total of 335 crore from non-farmers and ineligible farmers who availed cash benefits under the PM Kisan program after a large-scale vetting of beneficiary data. Under PM Kisan, the government provides income support of 6,000 a year to farmers with a valid enrollment paid in 3 equal cash transfers of 2,000 rupees each on every 4 months.
And the affordable housing sector is expected to propel proptech investments within the country. According to a study by HDFC Capital, Brigade Reap and Knight Frank, the segment is projected to grow steadily. The expectation is about a growth of 15% CAGR from $6 billion in 2023 to $16 billion. That's a $10 billion increase by 2030.
The global real estate consulting firm JLL said that the first 9 months of 2024 saw 2.5 lakh homes being sold in India, valued at 3.8 trillion with the average sale price of 1.64 crore rupees per apartment, primarily fueled by premium projects, especially in Delhi NCR. Amongst the top cities, Delhi NCR led in sale value, while Bengaluru came second in terms of area sold.
And this is a lovely one to leave you with. Oxford University Professor Soumitra Datta has said that the perception of brand India has improved tremendously with the economic progress the country has seen. The country is now seen as a land of investment, according to Datta. Datta is the Dean and Professor of the Syed Business School in the University of Oxford. She says, when I talk to young people in India, I tell them that the brand that you have right now is a huge benefit and that you shouldn't take it for granted. We're going to be heading into a quick break. On the other side, a very, very important conversation for this moment. Do stay with us. We'll see you in just a few minutes.
बच्चा को इंसाफ दिलवा दीजिए, बस और कुछ नहीं चाहिए। आपसे तुम्हें छोड़ो, अभी बच्चे से नहीं मिल रहे टॉर्चर किया हम लोग को, वो भी टॉर्चर किया, पर मेरा बच्चा अपने ऊपर सब लेके अपना, मेरा बच्चा सब बर्दाश्त किया, हम लोग को भी नहीं सहने दिया, अपना कष्ट अपने झेलता रहा, अंदर ही अंदर घुट गया, एकदम बर्दाश्त से बाजुल कर दी। मेरा बच्चा एकदम अंदर से टूट गया था रे बाप रे बाप। मेरा बच्चा अंदर से बिल्कुल टूट गया था। इतना टॉर्चर हुआ मेरा बच्चा कि टूट गया एकदम अंदर से।
अभी मीडिया का ही दे रहा है क्या?
बस लाश
कहाँ
मेरा बच्चा अंदर से बिल्कुल टूट गया।
आपके बेटा आपको कुछ बताए थे क्या हुआ था और हो क्या रहा था सर? क्यों ऐसा डिसीजन लिए है?
हमारा बेटा हमको कहता था कि पापा हम जाते हैं कोर्ट में तो हमारे पास हमको जो है सो पूरा जस्टिस नहीं मिलता है। वहाँ हर आदमी हमको जो है सो कानून व्यवस्था के अंतर्गत कोई काम नहीं होता है, और ये नियम से चलने वाला, कानून से चलने वाला आदमी था, लेकिन ये कभी भी जो है सो वहाँ की कानून व्यवस्था को एकदम मानता था कि एकदम खत्म है।
सही है सर। क्या बताए थे सर आपके बेटा? इससे पहले आपकी जो बात हुई थी, कब बात हुई थी और क्या हुआ क्या था?
मार्च के महीना में वो गया था। मार्च के महीना के बाद जब आया ना तो कहा कि पापा वहाँ का जो मीडिएशन का जो जज है, चाहे जो भी लोग है, वकील है चाहे जज है, जो भी है, वो वहाँ की कानून व्यवस्था जो लॉ है अपने भारत का, उस लॉ से नहीं चलता है। लोग उस लॉ को मानता ही नहीं है। जो ये बता रहा था कि इस धारा में ये लॉ होना चाहिए, तो वो उसको हाई कोर्ट के, सुप्रीम कोर्ट के लॉ को भी नहीं मानता था।
क्या बोले थे आपके बेटा आपको? उनको हो क्या रहा था?
उनको कुछ नहीं, उनको तो 40 बार बेंगलोर, कम से कम 40 बार गया होगा बेंगलोर से बड़ा जौनपुर, और माने इतनी धारा उस पर, एक खत्म हो जाता था केस तो दूसरा लगा देती थी। इस बात के कारण जो है तो भीतर से फ्रस्ट्रेट था, लेकिन हम लोग को महसूस नहीं होने दिया कि क्या है नहीं है। एकाएक हम लोग को खबर गई है कि वो अपना पूरा मेल वगैरह हमारे छोटे लड़के को रात में किया है 1:30 बजे 2 बजे, हमारे पास 3 बजे उसका फ़ोन आया है। उसके बाद हम लोग कैसे कैसे करके वहाँ से पटना आए हैं, एयरपोर्ट पटना से बेंगलोर पहुँचे 4 बजे शाम में।
मतलब सर आप जानते हैं कि उनके फैमिली कुछ जो अपने वाइफ के ऊपर और उनके फैमिली के ऊपर जो इल्ज़ाम लगाए हैं, सच है वो सारे?
एकदम 100% सच है, 100% सच है। उसमें एक आध इल्ज़ाम छूट गया हो तो भले ही, लेकिन जितना इल्ज़ाम वो को याद होगा उतना लगाया हो तो एकदम सही है।
मतलब आपके बेटा हेरासमेंट
बहुत हेरासमेंट था उसके साथ। हमारी वाइफ 4 महीना रही है, इसको डायबिटीज नहीं थी, वहाँ के टेंशन को देख के वो देखती थी, वहाँ की जो स्थिति है उसको देख करके इसको डायबिटीज हो गई।
मतलब आपके बेटे के अतुल के साथ रहती थी?
हाँ, नहीं गई थी, उसको प्रेग्नेंट थी तो हमारी वाइफ को हमने भेजा था, अकेले हम रहते थे वहाँ बिहार में, इसको भेजा था कि वहाँ पर मदद करना है बहू की। वहाँ का जो देखती थी ना, उसका जो आचार विचार, इसको देख करके थोड़ा सा इसको भी बहुत टेंशन होता था, लेकिन बोलती नहीं थी। हमारे लड़कों को
Welcome back. We spoke about the big, big fat Indian wedding, or the changing trends in the big fat Indian wedding before the break. But now let's shift our focus to something that has really captured everybody's imagination. It's got to do with mental health, and it's got to do with the justice system more importantly. Now, what happened to the young techie in Bangalore, where he allegedly took away his own life, has got the entire debate started on what matters and where the justice system really is. There are no right answers really when it comes to this entire issue. It's not a gender one either from what it seems like. It's got to do with justice system, and we want to understand and get to the bottom of where exactly does it leave us when we talk about mental health, even for men.
Right, there's been a lot of conversation on X, for example, about the fact that spaces need to be created for men to be able to come out and talk about this as an issue. And that did seem like an interesting point. One of the data points that we pulled out was that the World Health Organization says that 1 in every 5 men will face major depression at some point in their lifetime. So this does seem like an aspect we thought was worth discussing, exploring a little further. So we thought we'd bring on to the show Nikhil Taneja. He's come on to the show before to discuss this issue. He's the founder or the co-founder of Yuvaa. He's also over the last year hosted a very, very interesting talk show with some of the country's leading male celebrities. It's called Be a Man Yaar, and it's all about men's issues, intimate conversations with other men. Nikhil, thank you for joining us here on the show. Nikhil, this story that we've seen play out in Bangalore, there's many legal questions that it's thrown up. But with you today, we wanted to address some of the societal questions and the societal conversation that it's also brought up. So I just wanted to ask you, starting up first, what do you think are the important questions, the important takeaways that this story brings to mind, for you at least?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Toya and Sonal, for having me. I've been deeply disturbed by everything that I have read and seen online. I think most of us have. As you said, I think there is a very important aspect of judicial failure as part of the case.
Correct.
I think that our laws are at this point of time unhelpful to most citizens in India, and I feel like this is across spectrum of genders, right? If at one place we are seeing marital rape laws failing women, at another place we are seeing dowry harassment and other laws failing men. So it's a sad state of affairs. But as you rightly pointed out, there's also a larger conversation over here about men's mental health and men's emotional. It's so hard for men to be able to express themselves about anything on a daily basis. The only time we hear about men's mental health is when something extreme happens. And that is actually very, very sad and disturbing to me. That the only time that there is even a conversation about men's mental health is when you hear of a man taking their own life. It's never a conversation at any other point of time. We don't have an understanding of what men are going through. The stigma for men to express themselves on a daily, weekly, monthly basis is so much that even men only feel compelled to talk about their issues when something this level, at this depth of harassment or at this depth of mental, harassment actually happens with a man. But we are never hearing about this otherwise, and that's something that always kind of bothers me. That why are we not having this conversation a little more often? So there are more men feeling at least compelled to have conversations within each other, within society, so they never have to feel so lonely. Atul Subhash was constantly tweeting at Elon Musk saying that I need help, but I don't know if he had other men in his life to support him or other people in his life to support him that would have avoided a situation like this.
Right. But Nikhil, just as a disclaimer to everybody watching right now, we know very little about the story so far. Absolutely. It's just, we haven't even heard from the girl side of the family. This is only the version that has come out from what his, dying declaration, so to say, which has gone viral has been. But the thing that pinches the most about the story is the fact he mentions that his mental health was joked about in a court of law. Isn't that something that should really worry us? Is that what it's come down to? That people, despite all this conversation on mental health that we have in our country, there are still people in judiciary and other places where they're laughing it out.
Sunil, I read that exchange, and again, I think it stood out to me. Now, again, as you said, I don't think any of us are able to verify the veracity of everything that has happened in this case, including the other side. So can't really comment on that. But this is, even anecdotally, this happens quite often. So it's not just this one particular case. And it starts at home. It starts in schools, in campuses. Anytime a man is crying, he's made fun of. Anytime a man has an expression of any kind of emotion, it is almost shut down or judged. I remember I was in an engineering campus, and I remember so clearly that any kind of a man who would even complain about the fact that life is tough over here, I'm being ragged, or it's hard being here, the seniors would violently showcase to that boy that, oh, you think this is hard, you think education is hard, you think ragging is hard, here are 20 more slaps, and now you will realize that life, this is not how you have to deal with it. You have to be able to fight back aggressively at life. Any sign of emotion is actually beaten out of men in our country, and mostly it is by other men, and that is what the sad state of affairs is. And then, of course, now we're also seeing that this is moved across genders. So, men are being harassed by almost everyone, everywhere. And this, again, I don't want to paint men as the victim over here, because we are very much also in control, right? So, what are we doing to change the laws? What are men doing to have conversations about this? And we only have these conversations when something devastating happens. What are we doing to fight and change these laws? Of course, we know that there are, our judicial system at many levels is not, doesn't help. There's so many rape cases that are filed every day, and yet there is no justice and we've seen this over and over again, so we don't care about it, because unfortunately, most of the, this is again my theory, of course, the reason that most men don't care about these kind of issues is because these kind of issues are actually out in the public lesser than issues of other genders, and because most of the mental health stigma or most of the harassment and violence happens against other genders, men don't think that this is our responsibility to really take care of, and then only when men's issues come to light, we are like, oh, why are we not doing anything about the gender? But this is why it's so important for us as men and as human beings to make sure that laws are equal for everybody, that there are gender neutral laws. It's very important that there were laws made for protection of women. At the same time, do we have the right filtrations? Do we have the right asterisk marks wherever there are arguments to be made where there can be misuse of these laws? Do we have systems that check upon the veracity of allegations before we start trials, before multiple cases are filed? We don't have any such conversation, and that's what really again upsets me. And as you said, the thing that happens most often is men's emotions are suppressed to such a large extent that any point of time a man is actually helplessly expressing himself, it is made fun of. I can promise you, and this is my theory, but I can promise you that if this video would have come out, if it would have been leaked without this person taking the ultimate sad step, most people would have made fun of him on social media, saying, "Oh, look at this man who has this 1.5 hour rant about his issues. Why don't you man up? Why don't you take care of yourself?" But only because this person has unfortunately taken their lives are we having this discussion. Otherwise, there are many men who express and they're constantly shut down.
So, Nikhil, I want to ask you, your conversations on Be a Man Yaar, they are a lot like, and I mean this in the best way, they're a lot like therapy sessions in the sense that you're having these intimate conversations. You're encouraging men to come out and talk about the things that have bothered them from when they were very young to their current issues too. But I want to ask you, Nikhil, there is a school of thought that believes that conversation in itself can sometimes be a feminine form. And there are other ways that we need to come up with as a society that allow men to express themselves. I just want to ask you, if I simply asked you, what should our audience's takeaways be today? What are the ways to create a society and a world that encourages men to express themselves, be it verbally, be it in other ways? What would you say?
I think we have for very long reduced issues to masculine and feminine, and that's where a lot of these problems start, right? Like even today, I feel, and this is, I don't know if I'll get trolled for this, but I always feel like anytime we talk about men's issues is when there's a woman to blame. Oh, there's a woman who has done something wrong over here. That's why so many men get angry and talk about this repeatedly everywhere.
Yeah.
But when there is no woman to blame, when there is no clear villain, men's issues are often ignored and by other men. And I always feel that unless men take up the onus of helping each other out, creating safe spaces independently, we should not be doing this in aggression. We should not be doing this as a revenge or as almost vengeance against any other gender or anybody, any other villain. There do not need to be villains. We can really just create these warm, helpful, kind, safer spaces for each other.
But if I could ask, sorry, Nikhil, how do you do that? What are the keys to creating that space?
Men have to take the onus of creating these spaces ourselves. We have long awaited for somebody else to create this. We have been, and this is a societal problem, right? In our homes at the very beginning of our lives, I think we spoke about this way as well, right? It's mothers who create safe spaces for their children, and even specifically for men. But fathers typically are not, in most cases, and I'm not saying in all cases, but in most cases, fathers are always a little bit distant from their sons. And that's why men don't have this understanding of opening up or being warm in front of their male support systems. They're always looking at female support systems to express themselves. And that is also why when something like this happens, there is harassment to be faced from every side, because they only believe that they can, their empathy should come from feminine spaces, which is not true. It can very much come from masculine spaces, and those masculine spaces can also be empathetic. Why are we only attaching the idea of empathy to feminine spaces, right? Yeah. And if we take that onus, if we are checking up on our friends daily, weekly, if we are not making fun of other men, if we are not bullying other men, if we are not reducing men's issues to punchlines, anytime a man comes up with an issue, if another man is not saying chal daru peete, or another man is not saying chal theek ho jayega, sleep it off, be a man, if those things stop happening, and if we genuinely just take a moment to ask another man who may be our friend but may be going through something and being like, are you okay? Can I do something to help? Can I just be there to listen? That's where it starts. It's actually really simple, but it takes a lot of time, effort, courage.
Yeah, but Nikhil, can I then say this? Don't you think the solution lies in not having conversations on mental health in silos? Men have their own conversations and women have their own. I think that ghettoism of genders has to stop. It has to be gender neutral. Until the time we don't do it, we'll keep making one enemy of the other.
I feel like that's been happening very often already, Sonal. I feel like all empathetic conversations typically flow between genders. Or within women, but I don't think, the reason that I'm also pointing out very specifically this idea of men helping each other out or just being there for other men is because that is a gap in society. We are not doing that enough. And I also feel like if men are able to, be allies to themselves first, then they will be also be able to be allies to anybody else. I don't think that we give ourselves as men the space and the courage to be vulnerable to sometimes ourselves also. We are not able to express to ourselves that we are going through something. We are not able to acknowledge to ourselves that, our life may be tough and our emotional state might not be great. And unless we express that to ourselves, and then unless we're able to express it to the closest people in our lives, which often happen to be men, can we then actually say that, you know, it's easier for us to be able to talk to anybody else? So the only time we are able to express is when there is a warm a question from the other side, and unfortunately or fortunately that question typically comes from women, and that's why men are more likely to open up to women, which is why so many men are seeking partners and seeking marriage. It's not only about finding a life partner, it's actually finding a partner in your emotional issues. But you're right. I completely agree, and you're absolutely right, Sonal. I feel like in the most ideal version of society, we should be having this question, these conversations everywhere between everyone. But I feel like a lot of it now needs to start between men, because that's the biggest gap in society. If we are able to have those healthy conversations, we will then not have angry conversations that we're having right now.
It's a gap you're already filling to some degree by starting out those conversations. I just want to highlight, Nikhil, though, that you'd said a little earlier, I thought that was beautiful, that it's so important to just check in with the men around you, text them, ask them how you're doing, start having these intimate conversations today itself if you can. Nikhil, thank you for joining us here on the show, for sharing your perspective on such an important issue.
Yeah.
We're going to head very quickly into a break.
All right, coming up after the break, well, we are all for balance on the program. So if it was about men's mental health on this side of the break, on the other side, we will look at the physical health of women, menstrual hygiene being one of the top key priorities. A conversation on that coming up on the other side.
टॉर्चर किया हम लोग को, वो भी टॉर्चर किया, पर मेरा बच्चा अपने ऊपर सब लेके अपना, मेरा बच्चा सब बर्दाश्त किया, हम लोग को भी नहीं सहने दिया, अपना कष्ट अपने झेलता रहा, अंदर ही अंदर घुट गया, एकदम बर्दाश्त से बाजुल कर दी, मेरा बच्चा एकदम अंदर से टूट गया था रे बाप रे बाप। मेरा बच्चा अंदर से बिल्कुल टूट गया था, इतना टॉर्चर हुआ मेरा बच्चा कि टूट गया एकदम अंदर से।
अभी मीडिया का ही दे रहा है क्या?
बस लाश
कहाँ?
मेरा बच्चा अंदर से बिल्कुल टूट गया।
आपके बेटा आपको कुछ बताए थे क्या हुआ था और हो क्या रहा था सर? क्यों ऐसा डिसीजन लिए है?
हमारा बेटा हमको कहता था कि पापा हम जाते हैं कोर्ट में तो हमारे पास हमको जो है सो पूरा जस्टिस नहीं मिलता है। हर आदमी हमको जो है सो कानून व्यवस्था के अंतर्गत कोई काम नहीं होता है, और ये नियम से चलने वाला, कानून से चलने वाला आदमी था, लेकिन ये कभी भी जो है सो वहाँ की कानून व्यवस्था को एकदम मानता था कि एकदम खत्म है।
सर क्या बताए थे सर आपके बेटा? इससे पहले आपकी जो बात हुई थी, कब बात हुई थी और क्या हुआ क्या था?
मार्च के महीना में वो गया था। मार्च के महीना के बाद जब आया ना तो कहा कि पापा वहाँ का जो मीडिएशन का जो जज है, चाहे जो भी लोग है, वकील है चाहे जज है, जो भी है, वो वहाँ के कानून व्यवस्था जो लॉ है अपने भारत का, उस लॉ से नहीं चलता है। लोग उस लॉ को मानता ही नहीं है। जो ये बता रहा था कि इस धारा में ये लॉ होना चाहिए, तो वो उसको हाई कोर्ट के, सुप्रीम कोर्ट के लॉ को भी नहीं मानता था।
क्या बोले थे आपके बेटा आपको? उनको हो क्या रहा था?
उनको कुछ नहीं, उनको तो 40 बार बेंगलोर, कम से कम 40 बार गया होगा बेंगलोर से जौनपुर, और माने इतनी धारा उस पर, एक खत्म हो जाता था केस तो दूसरा लगा देती थी। इस बात के कारण जो है तो भीतर से फ्रस्ट्रेट था, लेकिन हम लोग को महसूस नहीं होने दिया कि क्या है नहीं है। एकाएक हम लोग को खबर गई है कि वो अपना पूरा मेल वगैरह हमारे छोटे लड़के को रात में किया है 1:30 बजे 2 बजे, हमारे पास 3 बजे उसका फ़ोन आया है। उसके बाद हम लोग कैसे कैसे करके वहाँ से पटना आए हैं, एयरपोर्ट पटना से बेंगलोर पहुँचे 4 बजे शाम में।
मतलब सर आप जानते हैं कि उनके फैमिली कुछ जो अपने वाइफ के ऊपर और उनके फैमिली के ऊपर जो इल्ज़ाम लगाए हैं सच है वो सारे?
एकदम 100% सच है, 100% सच है। उसमें एक आध इल्ज़ाम छूट गया हो तो भले, लेकिन जितना इल्ज़ाम वो को याद होगा उतना लगाया हो तो एकदम सही है।
मतलब आपके बेटा हेरासमेंट
बहुत हेरासमेंट था उसके साथ। हमारी वाइफ 4 महीना रही है, इसको डायबिटीज नहीं थी, वहाँ के टेंशन को देख के वो देखती थी, वहाँ की जो स्थिति है उसको देख करके इसको डायबिटीज हो गई।
मतलब आपके बेटे के अतुल के साथ रहती थी?
हाँ, नहीं गई थी, उसको प्रेग्नेंट थी तो हमारी वाइफ को हमने भेजा था, अकेले हम रह।
For our person of interest today, we are pleased to welcome Madan Mohit Bharadwaj, the founder of She Wings, a social enterprise focused on improving women's health in India. Now, through their initiatives, they have reached out to over 30 lakh women, addressing some critical issues surrounding menstrual health and hygiene. Madan has played a significant role in advocating for the reduction of taxes on sanitary pads, successfully influencing the government to also implement a 0% GST on these essential products. His organization recently also completed about 11,000 mammograms in just 9 days, highlighting their commitment to enhancing women's health services in India. Madan, of course, is here with us in the studio. Hello, good morning.
Thank you, Sonal. Hi, good morning. How are you doing?
Good to see you. Good to see you in a very different avatar. A quick note over there for people who don't know, Madan used to be a fellow journalist and now is doing so much more work, so much more meaningful work. I have to start by asking you, Madan, that as a country, where are we in our awareness of getting the word out there and getting the importance and putting, the big focus on women health?
Sonal, first, this is one of the show I watch every morning and it gives very positive vibes when I watch this. We are a country of more than 150 crore, people across the country. Now, in our country itself, because health services are literally not that vast, not that good, where we could connect with each villagers, each resident. That is what there are social enterprises like us. We have been doing remotely work in partnership with the government, of course, with a lot of societies, stakeholders. And we are reaching out to the minimal, I would say, the underprivileged people. That is what from 2014 till now, right, the situation has improved a lot. I would say either it's a government efforts or it is society's effort or it is the civil society people. We have the index, I would say, for women healthcare has improved a lot. In COVID itself, we found that it's not only the government, but there are a lot of foundations, there are a lot of good people, Samaritans, who came all the way to support. That is what we had now recognized the values of healthcare workers.
Correct. So I want to understand this, when it comes to women's health in India, an Indian woman will always put the health, comfort and well-being of their family before their self. Is that a dilemma that you have to tackle at a very micro level as well?
You're absolutely right. It is to be said in the Indian, North India especially, माओं को दर्द नहीं होता. And whoever is the mother of the house, she eats the food at the very last stage.
Yeah.
The father will eat, the kids will eat. I mean, sometimes, so mostly in the houses, mother eats the left out foods. Sometimes we need to understand a woman needs more calcium, more diet, a healthy diet, where it is going opposite. So because of the beliefs, values, culture, we are, in most of the families itself in the villages, women don't eat food until their husband eats.
Yeah, and then the kids and then the in-laws and only then the leftover goes to the mother.
Right. So imagine a single day where a mother becomes sick, the entire household will come to a standstill.
Yeah.
So she never takes a leave also, right? But as far as her health is concerned, she will give it a least priority, right? She will take any random medicine. So that is what it needs to be worked upon. this area is the most ignored sector. Women health is the most ignored sector. And if we look at, they are the backbone of the family. That is what we thought as Achieving's foundation. We had worked mostly in the women health areas, either in terms of the menstrual hygiene or in terms of the PCOD, ovarian cyst, breast cancer, because these are the areas where people will go to doctor only if they are on bed.
Yeah.
There are basic SOPs which need to be followed. So awareness is something which is very important. And we want to educate, we started with education to awareness. We do not want that stage to come where you need to consult a doctor. Because a lot of things can be cured at the primary stage.
You're saying we've got to figure out a mechanism to nip it in the bud, because that's where a lot of diseases, health and wellness diseases as well, can be sort of taken care of. But name some of the major issues that women in India face today. Let's start with the urban woman first.
So for urban women, breastfeeding campaign we had, we got a lot of support from the government also, from the Bollywood also. You see, there is a myth that breastfeeding will make a women's figure out, number one. Then there is another myth that if you have a if you do breastfeed for your baby, you will have a lot of weakness. So the breastfeeding issue is not for a rural women. It is mostly for a urban women. I've seen my friends who pass out from IIMs and ISBs not to breastfeed the baby. From the first day, the baby would be on top feed. Whereas,
which is basically
the
intention of the lobby. Yeah.
But the fact is, intention and the peer pressure of being fit. But the fact is, breastfeeding makes you fittest.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Not only you, but your baby also.
Correct.
And it gives more, for the healthy reason, I would say it's more important. Also, emotionally, you get connected to baby. Right? So we had, it is very tough task to convince urban women, to educate women. Right? Because they have their own mindset. To persuade someone, it's a very difficult task. So it could not be a one-day affair that you meet a woman and persuade them. It takes the entire process to persuade urban women who's from a successful career.
Correct.
So we took the entire 3 seasons we have been doing it. Mostly we found, in fact, Honorable Governor Uttar Pradesh, Madam Anandibhen Patel also supported this campaign.
Yeah.
And we had to involve a lot of successful women so that they can give an idea that how...
So they become advocates of the issue and they tell them that there's nothing wrong with it. By the way, completely with this, even, all the sort of pediatricians that you go to now, they tell you that the breastfeeding figures have gone up, which is a great thing. Let's turn the chapter and leave towards rural women. What is the big issue there?
With the mostly nutrition is the most important factor, because most of the women in rural India, they eat the left out food. Sometimes they don't eat food because their husband did not have the food yet. And mostly menstrual hygiene, I would say PCOD and I would say UTIs, it's the major factor there. The most, another important factor I forgot to mention in the urban women, it's about using contraceptive pills. Because some sort of a women has understood that contraceptive pills are a solution. Whereas we forgot it is an emergency pills, right? Whereas the pressure is on a woman to have a pill. Overused. In, I will not name one of the school, but one of our gynecologists who's on board with us, she mentioned that in the school, by the time girls pass out, they have taken 20 pills. Imagine by the time of a girl turning 17, she's already used 17 pills. And that's how it changes the entire hormone.
And it will have downside, there will be side effects, yeah.
Exactly. And that's one of the major factor that, women, educated women, urban women also have issues.
Correct.
They need to be more cautious towards health. They are more ignorant towards their own health.
Correct. So come to me in conclusion about what can be done about this and where is Achieving's actually taking this forward?
So, while reaching out to more than 3 lakhs women, either urban or rural women, we have realized that there is one major factor which is coming up, plastic. Women using plastic in sanitary pad, it causes a lot of disease. Imagine putting a plastic on the face for 5 days, 24 hours. It is a study which says that plastic causes cancer. If you look at the Indian infertility market, right, the cases of Indian infertility patients, it is increasing day by day. We have come up with a solution with our one of our product which is 100%, the top sheet is made up of 100% viscose, which is cotton. It means you are not exposed to plastic. So whoever is, come in
How is this different from, say, the other sanitary napkins in the market?
Okay. So the product is called the world's first minor-friendly sanitary pad. A 12-year-old girl uses a different face cream, different shampoo, and their lingerie brands are different than a 40-year-old lady. If we understand their physiology and the body structure, during the menstrual hygiene, the blood flow is different for both the women, both the age group. The vulva size is different. In fact, their entire physiology is different. Why to use same sanitary pad which is not being made for them? The top sheet is a product, top sheet is a sheet which comes in contact with the vulva.
Yeah.
Right? When the plastic comes in contact with vulva, it is dangerous. That is what we want to cure. So that there could be healthy women, because when a woman is productive, when a woman is healthy, she is more productive.
Correct.
I feel that women in empowerment is incomplete until a woman is healthy or financially independent.
Yeah. So I just want to understand this, Madan, as we wrap up this segment on for people watching right now and taking this message home, what is it that they can do at their level to ensure that hygiene for women is sort of a conversation that happens more freely? And this is not a conversation only for people who've become mothers, but for all women alike.
We all shall start this within the family. In fact, if I would say, it took me more than 10 years to persuade my mother that my sister or my female family members in the house can do a puja during cycle. I was doing all the work, but it had a lot of struggle, right?
Yeah.
Still, I know women, who will never do shampoo during these days. So these are the things, but mostly now the problem has come up with the disposable also, because while using the product, we are making our Mother Earth more unsafe.
Correct.
While using, I would say, breast cancer is something which we hear one in a family is suffering from a breast cancer. And we need to stop this. For this, we need to have a regular checkups, right? If there is a doubt, we need to consult a doctor. We need to forget searching Google, right?
Yeah.
It's a very serious affair, because now if a woman is productive, I believe that, if a woman is healthy, the family is healthy, right?
Yeah.
Swasth Mahila and Swasth Parivar and successful country is all aligned.
Yeah.
So we need to be,
There was in fact a study that said that the health of a woman is directly related to the GDP of the country as well. That's how it really matters, and that's how important it really is in the whole process. Thank you so much, Madan, for sharing all these insights. We spoke a whole lot, host of issues on things that matter to women in urban India, in rural India, what can be done, and perhaps where you and I need to change our mindset a tad bit more. Thanks so much.
All right, let's take you next to all kinds of marketing insights. We're going to bring you a special section on financial markets powered by Money Control Pro, Money Control's premium destination for investing and business insights. And we'll start as usual by taking a look at markets. GIFT Nifty is indicating a flat start for the day. US markets closed strong. This was led by a tech stocks rally. Asian stock markets opened higher today. This is following continuing optimism in US markets of a rate cut they're hoping will take place this month. Crude oil prices are trading steadily in Thursday morning trade.
All right, let's look at the sector in focus this morning. The mutual fund industry is growing rapidly. As of end November, the MF assets under management, that's AUMs, showed a twofold increase in 5 years. Still, India's MF industry has miles to go as penetration, that's the AUM to India's GDP ratio, is significantly low compared to some other countries. Now, which companies are better placed to ride this multi-year theme? You can log into Money Control Pro to find out more about the mutual fund industry and the various other actionable insights on the markets. It's a premier destination for all the investing views and financial insights you will ever need, brought to you by Money Control.
And lastly, India, it's that time of the year again. Indian of the Year. Our awards are back. This is your chance to celebrate the visionaries and the icons that are making India proud. Right from trailblazing business leaders to inspiring youth icons, entertainers, sports legends and change makers, these incredible individuals have left their mark this year, inspiring millions worldwide.
You can show your support by voting for your favorite Indian at www.indianoftheyear.com. Together, let's honor India's pride, the world's inspiration. This is RP Sanjeev Goenka Group presents CNN News 18 Indian of the Year 2024. All right, with that, it's a wrap. We spoke about quite a bit men, health care, mental being, and the physical health and well-being of women, and overall the wedding season. There's so much more to be spoken about there.
But I hope, though, if there's any takeaway for you as our audience is, if you're a man watching today, text your friends, start that conversation with them, ask them how they are. I really love that point when Nikhil made it.
Yeah.
For now, though, that's all that we have for you. Leave us your feedback as usual. Goodbye.
आपके घर के
मेरे बच्चा को इंसाफ दिलवा दीजिए, बस और कुछ नहीं चाहिए। आपने तुम्हें छोड़वाने बच्चे को नहीं मिला, तेरे बाप ने टॉर्चर किया हम लोग को, वो भी टॉर्चर किया, पर मेरा बच्चा अपने ऊपर सब लेके अपना, मेरा बच्चा सब बर्दाश्त किया, हम लोग को भी नहीं सहने दिया, अपना कष्ट अपने झेलता रहा, अंदर ही अंदर घुट गया, एकदम बर्दाश्त से बाजुल कर दी, मेरा बच्चा एकदम अंदर से टूट गया था रे बाप रे बाप। मेरा बच्चा अंदर से बिल्कुल टूट गया था, इतना टॉर्चर हुआ मेरा बच्चा कि टूट गया एकदम अंदर से।
अभी मीडिया का ही तेरा है क्या हुआ?
बस लाश
कहाँ
मेरा बच्चा अंदर से बिल्कुल टूट गया।
आपके बेटा आपको कुछ बताए थे क्या हुआ था और हो क्या रहा था सर, क्यों ऐसा डिसीजन लिए हैं?
हमारा बेटा हमको कहता था कि पापा हम जाते हैं कोर्ट में तो हमारे पास हमको जो है सो पूरा जस्टिस नहीं मिलता है, हर आदमी हमको जो है सो कानून व्यवस्था के अंतर्गत कोई काम नहीं होता है, और ये नियम से चलने वाला, कानून से चलने वाला आदमी था, लेकिन ये कभी भी जो है सो वहाँ की कानून व्यवस्था को एकदम मानता था कि एकदम खत्म है।
सर क्या बताए थे सर आपके बेटा, इससे पहले आपकी जो बात हुई थी, कब बात हुई थी और क्या हुआ क्या था?
मार्च के महीना में वो गया था, मार्च के महीना के बाद जब आया ना तो कहा कि पापा वहाँ का जो मीडिएशन का जो जज हैं, चाहे जो भी लोग है, वकील है चाहे जज है, जो भी है, वो वहाँ के कानून व्यवस्था जो लॉ है अपने भारत का, उस लॉ से नहीं चलता है, लोग उस लॉ को मानता ही नहीं है। जो ये बता रहा था कि इस धारा में ये लॉ होना चाहिए, तो वो उसको हाई कोर्ट के, सुप्रीम कोर्ट के लॉ को भी नहीं मानता था।
क्या बोले थे आपके बेटा आपको, उनको हो क्या रहा था?
उनको कुछ नहीं, उनको तो 40 बार बेंगलोर, कम से कम 40 बार गया होगा बेंगलोर से बड़ा जौनपुर, और माने इतनी धारा उस पर, एक खत्म हो जाता था केस तो दूसरा लगा देती थी। इस बात के कारण जो है तो भीतर से फ्रस्ट्रेट था, लेकिन हम लोग को महसूस नहीं होने दिया कि क्या है नहीं है। एकाएक हम लोग को खबर गई है कि वो अपना पूरा मेल वगैरह हमारे छोटे लड़के को रात में किया है, 1:30 बजे 2 बजे हमारे पास।
Hello and welcome again. You're watching the morning news show on CNN News 18 and I'm Sakshi Singh Litoria. Over the next 60 minutes, we'll be discussing the top headlines from the nation and across the globe. Heading straight towards the winter session of the Parliament, another day of chaos unfolded in the upper house of the Parliament as the opposition ramped up attack justifying its no confidence motion against Chairman Jagdeep Dhankar. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge accused him of acting as a spokesperson for the government and being the primary disruptor of the house as well. The Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiren Rijiju responded to that, accusing the opposition of humiliating Parliament and insulting the Kisan Putra. Now, Shiv Sena Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray's leader Sanjay Raut also launched a sharp attack, comparing the proceedings under Dhankar's leadership to a quote-unquote circus. He said, and I'm going to quote him here, that I have never seen such a terrible situation before. He's not running a parliament, he's running a circus. As the deadlock deepens, the Rajya Sabha appears to be caught in a cycle of political warfare, overshadowing the people's issues that seem to have taken a backseat.
72 साल बाद एक ऐसा किसान का बेटा उपराष्ट्रपति के पद में पहुंच करके इस देश को सेवा करने का काम किया है। इस राज्यसभा सदन का सभापति के रूप में पूरा देश देख रहा है। आप लोग इस सदन का सदस्य होने का लायक नहीं है।
कभी वे सरकार के तारीफ में कसीदे पढ़ने लगते हैं, कभी खुद को आरएसएस का एकलव्य बताने लगते हैं। इस तरह की बयानबाजी उनके पद को शोभा नहीं देती।
And some breaking developments now coming in pertaining to the same story. In a big statement now, Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar has now said that there is an ongoing effort to divide the country and insult its institutions, which must be defeated. Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar, in fact, also went on to say that this is after the opposition submitted a notice to move a motion to remove the Rajya Sabha chairman. He further added that there are some forces in the country and outside which are unable to digest India's progress. Let's listen in to what Rajya Sabha chairperson actually said.
कुछ ऐसी ताकतें हैं देश में और बाहर जो भारत की प्रगति को पचा नहीं पा रहे, देश को खंडित करने का, देश को विभाजित करने का, देश की